This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. For too long, women's serious midlife health issues have been trivialized, ignored, and met with a just deal with it attitude. Many of us have been made to feel ashamed or forgotten. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But here's the powerful truth. It's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI is not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. What sets MIDI apart? We are the only women's telehealth brand covered by major insurance companies, making high-quality, expert care accessible and affordable for all women everywhere. Our clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. We offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions, from hormonal therapies and weight loss protocols to lifestyle coaching and preventive health guidance. This isn't a one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will join our patients who feel seen, heard, and prioritized. You will find that our mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the health care they deserve. Because we believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It's just the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm your host, Peter Zablocki, and you're listening to the 11th limited series of the History Shorts podcast. Each week this month, I will examine some secret or rather less known tales from World War II. The idea for the series and the specific topics came from the book Top Secret Tales of World War II by William Brewer, published by Castle Books in 2008. This series is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate podcast listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the globe, all in one place. Download Podcast Republic now and take your podcast experience to the next level. As always, thank you for continuing to tune in each day and allowing me to tell you a story. And if you have not already done so, make sure you click that subscribe button. If you like this show, the best thing you can do is spread the word to your friends. For more information, please visit www.historyshortspodcast.com. Today, on our third episode of the History Shorts Secret World War II series, Operation Sunrise, the secret plan to surrender Nazi Germany's forces.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
In the spring of 1945, with the Second World War reaching its climax, a clandestine series of negotiations quietly unfolded in Switzerland, known to the participants as Operation Sunrise. These talks, conducted between representatives of Nazi Germany and the United States, aimed at arranging a local surrender of German forces in northern Italy. The negotiations took place from February through April of 1945 in multiple neutral Swiss locations, most notably in and around Bern. The German side was led by OSS Obergruppenführer Karl Wolff, the supreme SS and police leader in occupied Italy, while Alan Dulles, head of the OSS station in Bern, coordinated the American efforts. This secret diplomacy succeeded in facilitating the surrender of Army Group C, comprising nearly 1 million German troops, on terms that accelerated the Allied advance and shortened the conflict in Italy by several years, influencing the final tenor of the European War's conclusion. The historical context of Operation Sunrise lay in the deteriorating military position of Germany's forces in Italy. Since the Allied landings in Sicily in 1943 and Italy's subsequent armistice, the German Wehrmacht had occupied northern Italy and established a defensive line in the Po Valley. However, by early 1945, persistent Allied bombing campaigns critically strained the German supply lines through the Brenner Pass, and partisan resistance organized by the Italian National Liberation Committee, or the CLN, further undermined German control. The German High Command, including Karl Wolff, faced a looming decision: adhere to Hitler's orders for uncompromising defense or seek terms that would preserve lives and prevent a chaotic collapse. Wolff, tainted by his role in war crimes but increasingly pragmatic, initiated contacts aimed at a negotiated surrender that would limit further destruction and avoid surrender to communist partisans. Of course, this was all secret because he did not want Adolf Hitler to know anything about this. In February 1945, a Swiss educator named Max Hussmann played a crucial behind-the-scenes role in instigating the first overtures. Having been alerted by an Italian intermediary about potential German intentions, Hussmann passed this information to Swiss intelligence officer Max Webel, who quickly passed it to Alan Dulles in Bern. Hussmann personally accompanied German emissaries through discreet crossings from the Italian frontier to assembly points in Lugano and Ascona. His persuasive skills and civilian neutrality were instrumental in maintaining dialogue during periods of diplomatic tension, and on several occasions secured critical continuance of talks when Allied headquarters, uncertain of Stalin's reaction, ordered Dulles to stand down. Stalin was not notified about these secret talks, and as an ally of the United States and Britain, perhaps he should have. Alan Dulles, operating under the constraints of Swiss neutrality and the overarching Allied commitment to unconditional surrender, nevertheless perceived an opportunity here to forestall Soviet advances and influence outcomes in post-war Europe. On February 23, 1945, Karl Wolff offered Dulles a plan whereby Army Group C would be allowed to withdraw eastward into Austria rather than surrender outright, intending to preserve German cohesiveness. Dulles rejected that demand, insisting that forces surrender to the Western Allies and not to the partisans. Instead, he agreed to allow the Germans to temporarily retain their weapons after surrender to maintain order and prevent partisan reprisals. A key setback occurred when Soviet leaders discovered the clandestine talks, interpreting them as attempts by the Americans to negotiate a separate peace. And after all, this was supposed to be an unconditional surrender, and the Soviets, as the co-allies, should have been part of this. Their protests provoked fraught correspondence between Roosevelt and Stalin in March of 1945, and tension within the Allied command. Nevertheless, Dulles and Swiss intermediaries, including Hussmann and Webel, were able to press the operation forward with discretion. Initial contacts in Lugano paved the way for gatherings in Ascona on March 18th and 19th, 1945. It is there that Wolff met with Allied generals under Dulles' orchestration. Later, an even more crucial session took place in March, where deliberations over terms were further refined. As those negotiations culminated, the military and political landscape shifted. The Western Allies advanced northward in Italy, while the Soviet armies swept through Central Europe. Eventually, on April 29, 1945, the instrument of surrender for Army Group C was finally signed by von Vietinghoff for the Germans and Allied commanders, stipulating a stoppage of hostilities effective May 2nd. This marked the first substantial capitulation of German field forces prior to Hitler's death, and the general German surrender on May 8th. The consequences of Operation Sunrise were multifaceted. Pragmatically, the surrender prevented further destruction in northern Italy, preserved civilian lives, and forestalled a potential guerrilla warfare scenario in the Alps. Politically, it signaled the emerging contours of post-war rivalry. The Soviet Union perceived it as the West negotiating behind its back, while Dulles' maneuvering elevated his prestige and influenced his role in post-war intelligence and ultimately the formation of the CIA. Historians would later criticize Dulles' judgment for sidelining Soviet participation, while scholars acknowledge that the agreement accelerated the final collapse of Nazi control. Still, Karl Wolff himself avoided immediate prosecution at Nuremberg, partially due to the cover offered by Operation Sunrise. And despite his documented involvement in war crimes and the final solution, he received leniency that many civilian authorities attributed to his cooperation in trying to surrender the German military. Later in the 1960s, he was tried and convicted in West Germany for his role in the deportation of Jews and served a prison sentence before his release in the early 1970s. On the Swiss side, Hussmann and Weibull remained constrained by the nation's politics of neutrality. Details of their contributions remained suppressed for decades and only began to surface in the late 20th century, with Weibull's published report and commemorations on the 60th anniversary. Their roles illustrate how private individuals and neutral states could facilitate critical diplomatic interventions, even in times of total war. Thanks for listening.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.